It's so great to start off my first podcast of Pearls of Wisdom with the wonderful Lauren Hayes, who is a coach extraordinaire and she runs Moxie Group. If you haven't seen her website, I really encourage you to go and take a look at it. She's an amazing woman who was nominated for two categories last year in the Tell Street Young Business Women of the Year Awards. So, Lauren, can you tell a little bit about who you are and your entrepreneurial journey and how you ended up being nominated for two awards?
The awards. We love the awards. My name is Lauren Hayes. I am the founder and owner of Moxie Group, as well as Tea Garden, which is a second little side hustle that I have. And I famously tell everyone I'm one of 60 grandchildren. So I have a huge, huge family, and I grew up in a very tight-knit little community down in Tasmania, full of Dutchies, which is where the blonde hair comes from, I suppose. And I've always been a little bit different. So my mum will tell you that I'm the black sheep. My aunties will tell you that I'm just a little bit different. And from a very, very young age, I kind of decided that I didn't really like what people told me to do, and instead I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do, which seems to be a little bit of a trait with people who take up an entrepreneurial journey. There's a little bit of
And also coaches.
yeah. We just want more.
And when you were talking about the big family, that's one.
Sorry.
When you were talking about having a big family and coming from a small community, I think that really is a great breeding ground for a good coach because there is so much richness in those experiences and it really forces you to watch people and learn about interaction.
Absolutely. And also it because you grow up in such a small group of filters, I suppose, when you take yourself out of that situation, you realize so much of your life is defined by what other people have told you and what other people have believed or instilled in you. And I think when I was at high school, I was really badly bullied, and I decided that I was just going to get rich and leave Tasmania and everyone could get stuffed. So I ended up graduating really well out of university and got an amazing job with a company called Accenture, which is an IT consulting firm that's internationally founded. So that moved me to little old Canberra, the capital city of Australia, and there was my first real life experience, I suppose. You know, I got to taste goat's cheese for the first time. I got to realise that you could, go to the mall without knowing half the people who were serving you. Like, just really opened my eyes to how different the real world is from the one that I came from. And also how much I hated working for people. That was the other really big learning coming out of that. So I did about 10 years of international business consulting with different companies, Ernst & Young, Accenture, RSM Bird Cameron, and even a stint in aid with Care Australia. And in my time in those roles, it was not just about me. Like, I started to recognise that women, as a general rule, not all women, would undersell themselves. So I would have these incredible female managers who were by far the brightest in the room, not just with brains, but, emotional intelligence, capability. And they would beat themselves to a pulp if they said one thing wrong, And these men who, it's not because they're a man, but they happen to be a man and they weren't doing a great job. They would walk around like they owned the place and they'd be so proud of it if they said one thing right,
Yeah, completely different levels of confidence.
Yeah, and you just think, lady, you're so incredible. Why are you selling yourself short? Which subsequently means that everyone else sees that side of you as well. Like, when you're selling yourself short and concentrating on all the things you're doing wrong, all the people around you only ever see all the things you're doing wrong because that's all you're talking about, And I just thought, what on earth are we doing? You know, we're in a society today where we have quotas, where we have all this equity stuff happening. We have women given opportunities that we probably don't even deserve just because we're women, trying to get us on the same level. But honestly, our biggest problem is us.
Yeah.
And if we just took a few moments
A lot of women won't want to like.
No.
A lot of women won't like you saying that.
No, I get lots of hatred for that comment. But that's okay, because I think if we can take ownership for our self-love and our self-development and putting ourselves out for opportunities and supporting other women in doing the same thing, we will see those barriers crumble. It's when we anticipate those barriers are there, it gives us permission to sit back and wait. But you know, you see women achieve the most incredible things. Dr. Fiona Wood invented fake skin while working full time and having 6 children. Like, there is nothing that stops us except our self-belief that we aren't good enough, which is inherent in every single woman on the planet. You know, and that's our biggest fear. And our second biggest fears will be found out to be a fraud. So when you combine these two, there's no wonder we don't strive for more, because underpinning everything is the belief that we won't be able to do it. So along that rant is why I started Moxie, I suppose, because I truly believe the power of women. Like, women are awesome. But 99% of women don't believe that they are. So if we can just tweak that belief, then the world is our oyster.
It's so true, and it's a story I like to tell some of my clients about putting yourself out there and how I held myself back from a promotion almost because I didn't think I was ready. And when I talked to someone more senior that I'd worked with for a long time, he said to me, a man wouldn't hesitate. He'd have his application in right now. And I marched back to my desk and I finished it because I thought, to hell with that. I'm going to put it in and I'm going to show them. So it's something that it really resonates with me in particular.
Well, that story is not uncommon. In fact, I believe it was the Harvard Journal, or maybe it was Financial Review or something, did a study, and they said men will apply for a job if they fit 60% of the criteria. Women will apply for a job if they meet 95 to 100% of the criteria.
Yeah.
You know, and it is because we are our harshest critic, and we are designed metaphysically to need perfection. Like, if 100 years ago we picked the wrong berries, we would have killed our family. If we didn't know where our children were at all times, they would have been falling in the fire and burning to death. You know, our design is to catastrophize every single situation so that we can avoid it by taking the right action. Whereas a man's brain often doesn't see past the corner. You know, they see, I'll put the application in and then I get the job. They don't see, and then I get the job and maybe I make a stupid mistake and someone calls me out and I end up crying in a toilet and no one wants to talk to me, and then I get fired, and then I have to tell my mum, and then my mum will have a heart attack because she'll be so disappointed in me, and then I'll be blamed by the entire family for my mum's death. You know, and this is how our brain works. Whereas a guy stops it, I get the job.
Yeah, and one thing I really love about you, and I'll explain to the people listening, is that you blend science in your coaching, and you talk about how we're wired and why we do the things we do. And I remember coming to one of your talks where you were talking about heart math, and I was just transfixed because with my analytical bent, it gave me the hard data I needed to believe what I already believed anyway, but I just needed something to be able to explain it to somebody else. You know, I couldn't say, well, I just believe it the way it works. Are you able to talk a little bit about heart math in a nutshell for people?
Yeah, it's one of my favourite subjects because I'm also ultra nerdy. I don't come across as ultra nerdy, but I totally am, because I think when you understand something, you can make better decisions. I don't know if that's a belief
Yeah,
system that I hold too dearly, but I really enjoy being smart. I really enjoy understanding why I'm behaving the way I'm behaving. Even if I'm not changing my behavior, even if I know that I'm messing myself up, at least I know it's happening. And I'm like, oh, well, that
yeah,
satisfies the control freak in me. But heart math is simply a science that is studied in the US. Heartmath.org, I believe, is the website. And basically, what it is the study of our ability for our organs to communicate to one another. So all of our organs have a electromagnetic field around them, right? And our heart has an 8 meter field. So anyone within
mm,
8 meters of you in any direction can feel how you feel. So your heart sends messages to your brain at a rate 16 times faster than your brain can send messages to your heart. And this is why people call it intuition, some people call it gut feel. When you're in a room with someone, you can pretty much figure out whether they're lying or are genuine or whatever's going on by just being in the room with them, by just feeling it. Because their heart's going to be telling you, and you've probably got 10,000 examples of a time when someone lied to your face and you just knew, or you walked into
yeah,
a room and you're like, I don't like you. I don't know why I don't like you. I have never spoken to you, but you're a bad person. You don't align to my values, and I know that, and I've got no idea how I know that. And it's because their heart is communicating to you. So if they're
yeah,
cheating on their wife and you have a really, really strong value about not cheating on your partner, you're just not going to gel with that person because
mm,
they're thinking about cheating and it's all going through them, and that electromagnetic energy is pushing out to your environment and you're feeling that. In addition, I take this a step further. All our cells have negative and positive receptors in them. So you're made
mm,
up of billions of cells, right? And if the energy that other people are putting out doesn't align to the energy you're used to being around, you will revolt against it physically. So, for example, if you're normally a really positive person and you come from a family that is, content and happy and, supportive of each other, and you start dating someone and their family is really down and negative and cuts you down and cuts your partner down, and you will feel physically ill in that environment.
yeah,
Not just from the heart situation, but your cellular structure can't absorb that energy because it doesn't have the receptors in your body
mm,
to absorb that energy. So it has to reject it. And when your body is constantly rejecting energy, that's where you get that sick gut feeling, all of that
yeah,
emotional and physical response to an environment. And once you understand that on a cellular level, you can be like, no, I'm not crazy. This is just not where I'm supposed to
yeah,
be.
exactly. And I think women tend to be better at emotional intelligence. They just seem to trust their intuition more. And I think that's a great tool for an entrepreneur to have when you align it with something like heart math, because when you are going out into the world and you are relying on other people to make money, you need to know that you can trust them. And I think having that kind of understanding gives you permission to go, you know what, I can make decisions quickly now based on how I'm feeling, and I'm not going to angst over it.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, I think if you layer emotions on, let's just science on science on science here, you've got to be aware
Yeah,
of your emotions, right? So, a lot of people come to me wanting to make money. I think money, I love money. Money is such an awesome energy in our world. It allows you to do so much stuff, but you really have to know how to handle it. Not handle
mm,
money itself necessarily, but handle the energy around money as well. Um,
yeah,
and the challenge is money and relationships in our society, like I'm talking first world society, are two
mm,
of the highest stresses on the body. So what happens is people become really attached to the outcome of relationships or money, and it actually changes the way we physically operate. And you will have felt this in a time when you're stressed about money, like you don't have as much as you would like. Maybe a bill comes in and you start to sweat, you start to feel stressed, you start to feel uncomfortable. So when someone's coming to me with a desire to make money, it is really a challenge to get it clear whether it's a decision coming from a stress point or a decision coming from a neutrality point. Because I'll share with you my Moxie experience. When I started Moxie, I came from a multi-million-dollar organization, right? And I was used to having shit tons of people and resources, and you don't do a project by yourself. You hire a marketing team, you hire web designers, you hire copywriters, you hire branding people, positioning people, you hire product developers. You just hire everyone and basically just sit there and project manage. So I did that when I was 25. Now, thankfully, I had a lot of spare cash, I suppose. Not a lot, but to a lot of people was a lot, I suppose. $250,000 I lost in the first 18 months of my business.
Wow.
Because I bought my first house when I was 17 and I'd kind of just developed this property portfolio, and I was really stubborn, if you're not picking that up. So I lost everything I had, like everything. I had to move home to my sister's. I couldn't pay her rent, so I had to cook for her because I didn't know how else to be useful. And at that time, I just started dating my now husband, and I received a $40,000 fine in the mail. So I remember sitting there and I opened up this fine and I was like, and slowly just went down the wall, how it's in the movies. It really is like that. Just your soul leaves you when you crumble into a little corner. And I remember sitting there and thinking, I can go back to work or I can make it work. They are my two options. And if I go back to work, I could pay off this fine, there's no doubt about it, but I can't pay it off any quicker. I can't pay it off. It's not in my control. I have to sit there and wait for my monthly check to come in. Or because I'm in this, self-development world, which apparently preaches that it's 100% in your control, I should probably try because, I've got clients that I tell that to. Listen to me. So I did. I made $100,000 in the next 3 months from a negative $290,000 standpoint. So when people tell me, oh, it's not the right time, or I don't have the money, or I'm stressed, I'm like, yeah, but nah. It depends whether you come from a point of neutrality or a point of, I need to make the money, I'm going to die. If you can't, it doesn't matter what your actual situation is. If you can come at it from, there are good things about this, there are bad things about this, this is the decision I'm making, these are the actions I'm taking, and remove it from the emotional part of your brain up into the logic part of your brain, you can make whatever money you want. But the problem with women is we come at it mostly from a stress point of view, seeing our emotional part of the brain, and subsequently we make really stupid decisions.
That actually really ties in with something I wanted to talk to you about, which is the different types of entrepreneurs. So in my view, there are two types. There's the one that just goes and drops everything and makes it happen, or just takes that huge risk. And there's the cautious entrepreneur, which is more my style. The ones who do it part-time and then get the money, get comfortable, and then they leave their full-time work. Which one do you think you fall into, and what do you think the benefits are of that approach?
Well, I'm the first one. I'm the sever all ties, drop yourself in the ocean and learn to swim while you're halfway under the water. But I wouldn't say it's the best one. But I wouldn't say the cautious one's the best one either. And I hate fence sitters, but I'm just going to go right on and get some splinters. Because to me, it really depends on you and your values, right? So if I'm the type of person, if I'm in, I'm in. You know, I do it with relationships, I do it with work, I do it with my body, I do it with everything. I've either got to commit or not bother. Because if I'm lukewarm, I'm really shit at everything, right?
Yeah.
The problem is I'm intelligent, so I can get through most things, or I can talk myself out of most things, but if I really want the results, I need to go all in. I want to. It's a choice. I choose to go all in, right? So I started Moxie while still working, and I didn't really do a great job because I could manufacture all these excuses like I don't have the time or I don't have the energy, or things that society tells us is fine to believe, but it's really actually not fine to believe if you're trying to reach those goals, right? So to sever all of those ties then gave me no more excuses. But then,
Yeah, and it really ties.
no, go.
Sorry, just with the delay, it sounds like I'm talking over you, so I'm sorry about that.
It's fine.
But what you were saying really ties in with metaphysics, which is an area that I really love. And, there are so many cases where people have been called to do something. And I'm not talking about, a call from God or anything, but they just know that there's something that they were born to do and they have to do it. And it's only when they finally let go of everything, and they might cling and be really stubborn and not let go of that job, but it's only when circumstances push them and they let go of it all that what is going to help them get to that next stage comes.
Yeah, absolutely. But even with me, I let go of the job, I let go of everything, but then I had to lose my entire wealth, right? I had to lose everything. I had to go back down to bare minimum pathetic version of Lauren to build the confidence and the resilience to make it succeed. I remember ringing my dad, and he was also a very successful businessman. He owned a joinery. He hates what I do for a living because he doesn't understand the internet, which is quite funny. He tells everyone I'm an accountant. So when people come to me, my dad doesn't support me. I'm like, and? But anyway, I had to get to that point to prove to myself that I could do it. Now I pray that other people don't get to that point. I pray as a coach, I work very hard with my clients to make sure that they're moving towards pleasure rather than away from pain as a motivator. But I had to get to that point. And when I did, it was awful. And I'm so grateful that it happened, but I'd never want to be there again. And this is why I think the cautious entrepreneur is actually a beautiful space to play in. If you can motivate yourself, I don't like the word motivate, but if you can take the action to build your empire on the side of securing your values. So if your values are safety, financial well-being, anything in that space, to set yourself out of those values is actually going to be a very dangerous place for you to play because you're going to emotionally swing too hard. So if you can manage to take the necessary action to succeed while facilitating your values through a different avenue, that's a really powerful place to play, right? But to me, that question needs to be asked on a regular basis. Am I actually supporting myself here? Or is this a self-sabotage technique that I'm using to keep myself safe and sane, right?
And it can be really hard to distinguish sometimes what's what.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the hardest things in the world, and I had a really great conversation with a client the other day. She's a personal assistant and she's very, very successful. She's well into the six figures. She's doing a great job and she's starting a little side hustle, which is wonderful. Beautiful reasons behind it, gorgeous why, beautiful business model. And she was like, I'll do this and it will grow, and then I'll still do 1 or 2 days a week as an EA because I really enjoy supporting the people I support and da 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 da. And I said, bullshit. If you were earning, let's say, $500,000 a year, let's not even make this massive money, just good money, right? you wouldn't be an EA. Don't tell me that. You know, the reason you're an EA is because you're excellent, organised, you find value in being valued, and it provides you with financial security. But if you're running a business, it can tick all of those boxes for you as far as your values go if it's financially successful. So ultimately, she is using that one as a band-aid for the time being. And as long as she acknowledges that, I have no problem. But it's when we lie to ourselves and feed ourselves our own bullshit that it becomes a problem, and why coaches are so powerful, because it's our job to be like, I'm actually going to question you on that one. So
exactly, and it gives you that power of awareness, which is something that I think a lot of coaches talk about, but people don't necessarily understand what that looks like. So that's a really good example.
And I mean, I love your cautious entrepreneur take, but then even watching your journey, there have been points in that journey where you've been throw up in the air, I'm going to go all in, you know, but it's just taken you some time to work through those barriers. And it's not the whole thing. You're not going whole hog on the whole thing at the one time, but you've done your self-development, you've done the work yourself, and then you've gone, okay, I'm at a point now where I can release this and go all in on making that happen in this way. So your journey is really fascinating to watch, because you're doing the cautious entrepreneur thing with dropping bombs every now and again, and it's awesome.
And I like what you said about working with your values, and what you were saying about if you are a cautious person and then you try and throw everything in, it would be quite dangerous. And I've seen people who do that and end up, you know, going down a terrible path because they are just, it attacks everything that's fundamental to their well-being, you know, their health, their happiness, and that you're not going to be an entrepreneur when you're in that space.
No. I have a big frustration with the word feel. Like a lot of coaches today, like, it has to feel aligned, it has to feel good, it has to feel, you know, and my clients are like, I don't like doing that, it's not fun for me. And I'm like, I give zeros if this is fun. Like, I actually could not care less if you're enjoying this. You know, elite athletes don't train because they love it. They train because they love the results, right? But they're not going to train if they hate the cold and you send them to train in Antarctica, right? If they are doing everything that they hate with the fibre of their being, or questions who they are as a human being, you're never going to get the most out of someone. You know, so you have to have an alignment of values and actions. Now, the reason that it works for me when I throw everything away as far as like the lifeboats go is because I have an identity of being smart, resilient, and wealthy. Now, if you haven't done any identity work, I can't recommend identity work highly enough. It is one of the most humbling and empowering tools you can use to understand who you are and why you do the things that you do. But because I consider myself financially successful, and I've always done that ever since I was young, because I've always been investing and doing all these things, going broke was not an option for me. I could have absolutely put in for bankruptcy. I could have absolutely gone back to work and put my hands in the air and taken my 6-figure salary and made it, you know, viable in my life again. But it just wasn't even an option, and that was because of my identity. So if you don't have an identity that is aligned to aggressive behaviours, like throwing everything away, you're just going to damage yourself by trying to do that, because what you're doing there is aligning to what some coach or some book or something has said. Like Tony Robbins has said, you will only succeed when you cut the life raft. But I don't necessarily believe that is true. And for most women, that's a very dangerous place to be.
So looking back on your experience and your journey, what are some tips that you would give to women who are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, getting rid of their 9-to-5 job, and perhaps throwing it all in?
I wouldn't wish business on my worst enemy, but I would recommend it to my best friend. So it really depends on who you are as a person as to whether it's going to work for you. I couldn't recommend it highly enough, in the fact that even if it doesn't take you where you want it to go, it will take you where you need to go. You will learn so much about yourself. You will learn so much about the principles of life. If you end up going back to work, you'll be so much of a better employee, because you'll be like, thank the Lord, I don't have to do it all myself. But if you're going to do it with the full gusto of everything that you have. You have to believe in yourself in the moments when there's snot dripping out of your nose at such a rate that you can't even be bothered wiping it anymore, because it's a waste of time and tissues. No trees need to die for this situation. The biggest learnings that I have had from business have been when I've once again taken control. And I know that's so like female of me to say, but when you're failing, it's normally when you're blaming. It's when you're blaming other people. It's when you're blaming the environment. It's when I can't do this, I don't understand enough, and you think that you need to learn more or whatever. Rather than doing that, if you just take complete ownership of something, that is when you can really take the huge leaps. So if you are thinking of starting a business, start something with the outcome of profit in mind, for the love of all things, women. Everyone wants to be a really great operator. You know, I've got artists and they want to sell their art and live off their art, but they're shit at selling, they're shit at business, and they're beautiful artists. Why the hell would you then put the stress of trying to eat off your art on your plate? Why wouldn't you hire someone or start a business with someone who's good at business, or learn about business and then become an artist who sells their art? Does that make sense? You got to understand that business is not about your product. Business is about business. Business is numbers. Business is numbers. Business is numbers. And if you're going to start a business, you have to do it with numbers. You can't do it with pure passion and pure product. And I would love if my coaching was the best coaching in the world, and that is the reason that people came to me. But it's not. My coaching is good. I think it's great. My clients like it. But ultimately, it's because I run a business. I do marketing campaigns. I write emails. I follow up. I do the sales calls. You know, you have to run the business. With Tea Garden, the tea is beautiful. It's so tasty. It's high quality. It's packaged perfectly. But unless we went to the markets and sold the tea, unless we had the online funnels that sold the tea, unless we learned how to use the technology that sells the tea, you're never going to run a business. So if you can't do it, if all you want to do is deliver the product, find someone who will absolutely align to your vision and bring them in as your business side of the business.
I love that, because it actually gives you permission to not be perfect at everything.
Oh, if you had 6 hours, I could tell you all of my stuff-ups. Also, host in your home country. That's a really good piece of advice. If you live in Australia, use Zuva or Ventra IP or some Australian hosting company to manage your website. Please, for the love of all things, steer clear from HostGator and Crazy Domains and all of these places way overseas that give zeros about you and your happiness, because you pay shit, you get shit, pay for the things that matter, and hosting is something that matters. That's the bomb dropping right there. You can put that in the show notes. That's the best bit of advice.
Yeah, I've had some horror stories with IT, so I really would love to hear a little bit more about that once we finish this call.
It is the bane of every digital business. I can tell you that for
sure. Yeah, and you are so powerless, because, you know, your life is in the hands of these people that are pulling all these strings in this vortex that you don't understand. It's a horrible feeling.
It's horrible, and they care nothing about you.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing, and I often say to my husband too, if I ran my business with as little give a shit factor as half the people that I have to buy off, I would have no clients ever. You know, I truly believe my point of difference is not just the science, but it's how much I legitimately give a shit. Like, I read my clients' emails, I'll edit their stuff for them. I will sit there online and be like, click on that button, now click on that button. Like, I go so far above and beyond because I remember how close the stupid things came to breaking me. It was never the big things. It's never the things that you think is going to be really friggin' hard. It's the stupid shit, like hosting.
Oh, it's so true. And it never happens at one time. You don't catch a break. It'll be one thing and then it'll be another, and it'll just, you know, become this big avalanche of IT disasters.
And all you want to do is throw your laptop out the window, and then you're like, yeah, but that's another $2,000 and I have to reset that damn thing up, and then Skype won't open. I just can't do it anymore. Gonna go eat ice.
I actually had that thought this morning. I bought this new fandangled thing and it is the biggest piece of crap. And I'm going to be paying it off for 4 years, but, you know, that's all right.
And it's not just with computers. I ride mountain bikes for one of my hobbies, and I had this clanker of a mountain bike that I had for years, and I actually won it. So it was a $1,500 bike that I got for free because I won it in a race. And then I went ahead and I bought this fancy mountain bike, like top of the range, carbon fiber, front, back suspension, dropper posts, all the things I don't even know how to use, you know. Can't stay on it to save my life. So I gave it to my husband because he's about the same height as me. I can't ride the darn thing. It's too fancy. Just simple girl. Need simple toys.
Thank you. Well, on that lovely note, thank you so much, Lauren, for your time and for sharing your story and a little bit about your journey as well.
It's been my absolute pleasure, and this is the first time I have done my hair in about 8 weeks. So thank you for making me do this on video so that when my husband comes home, I'll actually look like a human being, because I mostly just spend my life in my dressing gown. So thank you.
You're very welcome, and so is your husband.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Take care. See you. Bye.